Hi there. My name is Pamela Hopkins. I am a professor and an organization development consultant, and I specialize in equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice work. Diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice work is really important to me. I do have multiple identities that I have experienced oppression myself, being a woman. Certainly being a lesbian and a member of the LGBTQ plus community. I also am the parent of a Latina. And so I have experienced her experiences of being the victim of discrimination. And I have to say also, though, it's really important to me because I also have a lot of privilege being in a white skin, right? I have a lot of privilege, that white privilege that gives me that extra kind of boost, right? And access and opportunities. So I think holding both of those, where I have privilege and where I've experienced oppression, I think is important, right? To do this work from that place. Dr. Chester Pierce defined this term. He actually is the founder and the seminal researcher around this work. And he talked about them as offensive mechanisms in using our power differential to then degrade or deliver a hostile message to another person that basically you have no place where you are, right? To other you. The way I think about them is these are ways in which we dismiss or demean one another. And again, it has a connection to a power differential. So as a white person, I can demean and degrade people of color, right? Men can degrade women, heterosexuals, straight people can degrade and demean those in the LGBTQ plus community. So that's important. The differential there is that you can just say something rude to me, but it's not a microaggression. They are certainly not micro to those that receive them. So when you are on the recipient end of a microaggression, it also impacts our health and well-being. There are a number of studies that tell us high blood pressure, high increased cortisol levels, and the taxing impact that has on our adrenal system. So they are not small in any way when you are the recipient. They are certainly incredibly impactful. I would say the most common examples are verbal, right? They're verbal insults. So for instance, oh, no wonder he's asking us to work 24/7. He's from India. That would be a verbal insult, microaggression based on race and ethnicity. There's an example that I can think of in a school setting where in a parent-teacher conference, they basically told the parents that the child had a lot of street smarts instead of, right, cognitive or intellect. But I also want to point out there are microaggressions that are physical. Examples in my studies are people coming up to Black women and touching their hair in the workplace. That is a physical microaggression. Another example of a physical microaggression were Asian women who are shorter were patted on the head by their taller Caucasian bosses. And then there are symbolic microaggressions or environmental microaggressions. These are symbols of things that we see every day. Billboards, right? There was a billboard that said, America's Sweethearts. And every woman on that billboard was white, blonde hair, and blue eyes. First, we have to recognize. And to recognize, you have to raise your head up, right? You have to observe, you have to listen, you have to ask questions, you have to examine your own biases. You have to say, like, where am I biased? Where could my decisions be impacting and harming others? The second is we have to respond when we see them. We do have to be courageous and say, okay, I'm not going to let this happen in my culture, whatever that culture is, an organization, a school, a community, a PTA meeting, right? It doesn't matter, but I'm not going to let that happen here. And then the third is when we have actually enacted a microaggression and someone tells us, we have to be okay with saying, I want to repair this. I didn't mean to harm you and I want to fix this. So those are the things that we can do. All of us, every single person can do that. First, you have to kind of get over your fear, right? Of maybe saying the wrong thing or harming a relationship. You have to get over that, and you have to push through and say, I'm going to respond. So I start with the generative strategies, ways in which we can actually work together to improve our relationship with the perpetrator. So there are 3 things that I offer. Educate, which is provide information, engage using questions, or confront and request. So these 3 options mean you have some tools in your toolkit. If I educate, I can actually provide some information and say, it sounds like you don't have a lot of information or experience with this, right? So let me share some with you. With engage, I might say, what did you mean when you said Black on Black violence, right? What did you mean by, or what did you mean when you said? Great questions. And then the third one, confront and request, is time out. No, you may not touch my hair. And actually, please don't ask me or any of my colleagues to touch their hair, right? Stop action and request a change. So I want everyone to add those to their toolkit because all of us can do that. Most of us are really trying to be good people, okay? But we do unintentionally harm others. So when you tell me I've stepped on your foot with a steel-toed boot, right? It hurts. And I have to take that in and know, that was not my intention, but I had an impact on you. So let's talk about intention versus impact. When someone tells us this, we have to own the impact. And what I often want to do is tell you that I'm a good person. And if I center my intention, I'm centering myself. I'm actually not focusing on you. I'm telling you, but I'm a good person. You need to know this, right? And it's all about me. I need to put my intention aside and focus on the fact that I did impact you. I need to hear that impact. And then what I'm going to do is say, I'm sorry. I'm going to acknowledge that I had an impact on you. I'm going to show some empathy and say, it must feel awful, right? That I dismissed you. Or it must feel really frustrating that it seemed like I was treating you as if you were invisible. So I'm acknowledging the impact. And then I want to talk to you about what I'm going to do differently, right? Because that's where we can learn and grow. It's like, you've given me this gift. And that's the beauty of the repair. It's like, now I have new information and I can learn and grow from it. So I'm going to tell you, you know what, I'm going to go away and do some reflection, or I'm going to do some more reading, right? Or I'm going to talk to my accountability partner, right, about this. When we experience microaggression, I do think healing and self-care is really important, okay? So I do think that if your life is in danger or your job is in danger, then you need to pay attention to that. And maybe you're silent. Maybe you need to ignore something that just happened. Taking care of yourself could be finding a partner and saying, this just happened to me and I want to talk it through. I'm a big fan of that because I think the more we work with one another and kind of communicate some of the pain that we're experiencing, the more we'll create allies, right? We'll have allies that want to be shoulder to shoulder with us in our struggle. They want to stand with us in the struggle and understand and listen, share your stories, right? But again, I want to come back to, if you have been the recipient of a microaggression, don't feel that it's all on your shoulders to educate. If you feel you can, then I think that's important. But again, I want you to heal. I want you to take care of yourself. One person, right? One community, one school. You can't do it alone. So lean on your community. Start with self-awareness. This is a journey, and that's what we say. You're never done with diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice work. That's just the honest truth. This is part of your lifelong journey. So start with yourself, read, expand your network, get outside your homogenous little bubbles, right? Work with other people in different social groups than your own.